All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to say call halayim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book. All right, so today in this lesson, I want to go into a book, man. All right, this book that you see right here on screen. All right, it's called The World Order, Our Secret Rulers, all right, by Eustace Mullins, all right. Now, I gone into other books that Eustace Mullins had done, all right. I gone into Murder by Injection, all right, by Eustace Mullins, which goes into the all the unethical practices in witchcraft, all right, that takes place in the medical industry, in the food industry, all right. Go watch those lessons, man. Those are good lessons, man. All right. Great information comes out, man. All right. Now, this man, Eustace Mullins, all right, he done all his studies and all his research, all right, at the Library of Congress, man. All right. So what I want to go to get into in this book, all right, is the second chapter. All right, on page 10. All right, the second chapter on page 10. All right, titled The Rothschilds, all right, which goes into the banking dynasty of the Rothschilds, all right, how it came to be, how it started and all that. All right, now I'm going to read these 2 pages that you see right here, and I'll read these 3 pages that you see right here. All right, because I just did this lesson, and it come to find out it wasn't recording. All right, so I'll do these first 2 pages, all right, and then I'll do this, and this is great information, man. A lot of beautiful information coming out, man, showing you that all the wars created, all right, are created by the bankers, man. All right, so let's get into this history, man. This is beautiful knowledge right here, man. All right, for the people that may or may not know, all right, you can learn, man. All right, get this information, and some of the prophets that teach, all right, you could brush up on it if you've forgotten a little bit. All right, so this is chapter 2, all right, the Rothschilds, man. All right, this is a quote by Meyer M. Bauer. All right, let me but issue and control a nation's money, and I care not who writes its laws. All right, so it's just about power and money, man. All right, so let's get into it. All right. It says, in its issue of December 19th, 1983, Forbes magazine noted that half of Germany's top 10 banks are Frankfurt based. The modern world's financial system and updating of the Babylonian monetary system of taxes and money creation was perfected in Frankfurt on Main, in the province of Hesse. All right, that's beautiful information right here. All right, they take after the old Babylonian money making system, man. All right. All right, Meyer Amschel Bauer, later Rothschild, all right, discovered that although loans to farmers and small businesses could be profitable, the real profits lay in making loans to governments, all right, governments and nations, man. All right, loans to governments and nations, all right, then they charge interest on those loans, and that's how they profit, man. All right, it says born in Frankfurt in 1743, Meyer Amschel married Gutter Schnapper. All right, he served a 3-year apprenticeship in Hanover at the Bank of Oppenheim. During this period, he had occasion to be of service to Lieutenant General Baron von Estorff. All right, von Estorff was the principal advisor to Landgrave Frederick II of Hesse, the wealthiest man in Europe. Frederick was worth from 70 to 100 million florins, all right, much of it inherited from his father, Wilhelm VIII, brother of the King of Sweden, all right. Baron von Estorff advised the Landgrave that Meyer Amschel showed an uncanny ability to increase money through his investments. The Landgrave immediately sent for him. All right. At this time, King George III was trying to put down the American rebellion. His troops were being outfought by the hardy Americans who were accustomed to wilderness battles. Meyer Amschel arranged for King George to hire 16,830 young Hessian soldiers from the Landgrave, a considerable addition to Hesse's fortune. This advantageous relationship came to a halt with the sudden death in 1785 of the Landgrave, who was only 25 years old. However, Meyer Amschel attained absolute influence over his successor, Elector Wilhelm I, who, like Meyer Amschel, had also been born in 1743. It says, it was said that they were like two shoes, so well did they go together. It was a pleasant change from Meyer Amschel's relationship with the former Landgrave, who had been a very difficult and demanding person. In fact, the Landgrave's sudden death had luckily placed Meyer Amschel in charge of the largest fortune in Europe. All right. As he prospered, Meyer Amschel placed a large red shield over his door of the house at the Judengasse, all right, which he shared with the Schiff family, all right. He took the name Rothschild from his sign. Yeah, that's what the word Rothschild means. It means a red shield, all right. We just read that. He said that he placed a large red shield over his door, all right, of the house. All right, so it says he took the name Rothschild from his sign. All right, in 1812, when he died, he left 1 billion francs to his 5 sons. The eldest son, Anselm, all right, was placed in charge of the Frankfurt Bank. He had no children, and the bank was later closed. The second son, Solomon, was sent to Vienna, where he soon took over the banking monopoly formerly shared among 5 Jewish families: Arnstein, Escales, all right, Gaymuller, Stein, and Sinner. All right, the third son, Nathan, founded the London branch after he had profited in some Manchester dealings in textiles and dyestuffs, which caused him to be widely feared and hated. Carl, the fourth son, went to Naples, where he became head of the occult group, the Alta Vendita. All right, the youngest son, James, founded the French branch of the House of Rothschilds in Paris. All right, it says, thus strategically located, the 5 sons began their lucrative operations in government finance. Today, their holdings are concentrated in the 5 Arrows Fund of Curacao and the 5 Arrows Corp, Toronto, Canada. The name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with 5 arrows clutched in its talons, signifying the 5 sons. Now, does that sound familiar to you? Can you picture that arrow? I mean, that eagle, all right, with the 5 arrows in that talon, in those talons? Where do you see that at? I'm about to show you. All right, but let's read that again. It says, thus strategically located, the 5 sons began their lucrative operations in government finance. Today, their holdings are concentrated in the 5 Arrows Fund of Curacao and the Five Arrows Corp, Toronto, Canada. The name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with 5 arrows clutched in its talons, signifying the 5 sons. All right. It says the name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with 5 arrows clutched in its talons. All right. Where do you see that at? All right. It says the image of an eagle with arrows in its talons is a powerful symbol, particularly in the context of the Great Seal of the United States. Right here, you see the eagle, and then you see the arrows in its talons. All right, so it shows you who got control of this, man. The Rothschilds, the elite banking families, man. Come on, man. In this design, the eagle specifically a bald eagle clutches an olive branch in one talon representing peace and arrows in the other representing war. This imagery signifies the nation's desire for peace, but also its readiness for conflict. All right, and you also see that, all right, in the back of the dollar bill. You see the eagle with the arrows in his talons, man. That comes from the Rothschilds, man. Go back to the Rothschilds' 5 sons, man. Come on, man. All right, it says, thus strategically located, the 5 sons began their lucrative operations in government finance. Today, their holdings are concentrated in the 5 Arrows Fund of Curacao, all right, and the 5 Arrows Corp, Toronto, Canada. The name is taken from the Rothschild sign of an eagle with 5 arrows clutched in its talons, all right, an eagle with arrows clutched in its talons. It ain't got 5 here, but that's the same image, man. All right, it's on the back of the dollar bill, bro. All right. It says the image of an eagle, all right, with arrows in its talons, all right, is a powerful symbol, particularly in the context of the Great Seal of the United States. And you see that on the back of the dollar bill, man. Come on. All right. It says the first precept of success in making government loans lies in creating a demand, that is, by taking part in the creation of financial panics, depression, famines, wars, and revolutions. All right, showing you that all these wars are created by the banking families, man. All right, because war brings money. All wars are bankers' wars, man. All these major events that happen, all right, in history, that's all created by the banking families, all right? Creating a demand, that is, by taking part in the creation of financial panics. So when there's a financial panic in a society or in an empire, that's the Rothschilds that did that. That's the elite banking families that did that, all right? In the creation, so these things are created in the creation of financial panics, depressions, famines, wars, and revolutions. So when you had the Great Depression, man, right? Going back, what's that, the 20s or the 30s? You had the Great Depression, all right? Famines and wars and revolutions, man, are all systematically created, are all manufactured by the banking families, bro. The first precept of success is making government loans. All right, the first precept of success in making government loans lies in creating a demand, that is, by taking part in the creation of financial panics, depression, famines, wars, and revolutions. You see, man? All right, the overwhelming success of the Rothschilds lay in their willingness to do what had to be done. As Frederick Morton writes in the preface to The Rothschilds, all right, for the last 150 years, the history of the House of Rothschilds has been, to an amazing degree, the backstage history of Western Europe. Because of their success in making loans, not to individuals, but to nations, all right? They reaped huge profits, all right? Someone once said that the wealth of Rothschilds consists of the bankruptcy of nations. Come on, bro. All right. In the empire of the city, E.C. Newth says the fact that the house of the Rothschild made its money in the great crashes of history and the great wars of history. You see? The very periods when others lost their money is beyond question, all right? So the Rothschilds, the banking families, that's how they keep in power, stay in power, have all that money, bro. All right, by creating the great crashes of history and the great wars of listen, all the world wars were created by the Rothschilds, by the banking families, man, by the elites, man. Revolutionary wars, civil wars. All right, the wealth of the Rothschilds consists of the bankruptcy of nations. Come on, man. All right. The fact that the house of Rothschild made its money in the great crashes of history and the great wars of history, the very periods when others lost their money in beyond is beyond question. So when there was the Great Depression, they was good. All right. This is why it's gonna be so much. It's gonna be so much more beautiful. All right. To know that the Heavenly Father Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, is getting ready to take this man down, man. All right. They literally going to go from riches to rags, and we're going to go from rags to riches, Lord willing. Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai Ratazah, man. You know, I'm part of the elect, man. I get, man. You know, it says on July 8th, 1937, all right, it says on July 8th, 1937, the New York Times noted that Professor Wilhelm, all right, a German historian, has said the Rothschilds introduced the rule of money into European politics. The Rothschilds were the servants of money who undertook to reconstruct the world as an image of money and its functions. Money and the employment of wealth have become the law of European life. We no longer have nations, but economic provinces. Yeah, corporations, man. All right, these nations are corporations, man. All right, economic provinces. All right. All right. It says on June 4th, 1879, the New York Times noted Baron Lionel and their Rothschild, all right, head of the world famous banking house of Messrs, all right, Rothschild and Company, died at the age of 71, all right. He was the son of the late Baron and M. Rothschild, who founded the house in London. Yeah, Nathan Meyer, Meyer Rothschild, all right, which was Meyer Emschel, one of Meyer Emschel's sons, all right. He was the son of the late Baron and M. Rothschild, who founded the house in London in 1808 and died in 1836. His father came to the conclusion that in order to perpetrate the fame and power of the Rothschild, which had already become worldwide, it was necessary that the family be kept together and devoted to the common cause. In order to do this, he proposed that they should intermarry and form no maritable unions outside the family. A council of the heads of the houses was called at Frankfurt in 1826, and the views of Baron Nathan were approved. All right. John Reeves, in his authorized biography, The Rothschilds, the financial rulers of the nations, noted that when the family met in London in 1857 for the marriage of Lionel's daughter Leonora to her cousin Alphonse, the son of James Rothschild of Paris, Disraeli, all right, Prime Minister of England, declared, under this roof are the heads of the family of Rothschild, a name famous in every capital of Europe and every division of the globe. If you like, we shall divide the United States into two parts, one for you, James, and one for you, Lionel. All right, Napoleon will do exactly and all that I shall advise him. All right. This was the political origin of the American Civil War, showing that the Rothschilds, the Rothschilds had their hand in the American Civil War. That was the whole point of the American Civil War, man. All right, let's read that again. It says John Reeves, in his authorized biography, The Rothschilds, the financial rulers of nations, noted that when the family met in London in 1857 for the marriage of Lionel's daughter, Leonora, all right, to her cousin Alphonse, son of James Rothschild of Paris, Disraeli, Prime Minister of England, declared, under this roof are the heads of the family of Rothschild, a name famous in every capital of Europe and every division of the globe. If you like, we shall divide the United States into two parts, one for you, James, and one for you, Lionel. Napoleon will do exactly in all that I shall devise. Napoleon will do exactly in all that I shall advise him. This was the political origin of the American Civil War. The Rothschilds feared the rapidly growing and increasingly prosperous, all right, free American Republic. And they privately resolved that it would be less of a danger to the worldwide interest if it were broken up into two smaller, weaker nations. All right, this is beautiful, information, man. All right, let's keep reading a little bit more. It says, in the Rothschilds, the financial rulers of nations, John Reeves, right? Now I got to go into this book too. All right. It says, in the Rothschilds, the financial rulers of nations, John Reeves writes, the first occasion, all right, in which Nathan assisted the English government was in 1819, when he undertook the loan of 60 million. From 1818 to 32, Nathan issued 8 other loans totaling 105,400,000. He subsequently issued 18 government loans, all right, totaling 700 million. To the Rothschilds, nothing could have occurred more propitiously, all right, than the outbreak of the American Revolt and the French Revolution, all right, as the two enabled them to lay the foundation of the immense wealth they have since acquired. Come on, bro. There's war, there's money in war, bro. All right. It says, all right, that's how they gained their power, through the war. And this third world war that's popping off right now, which is biblical prophecy, all right, with the true prophets and the true servants of the Lord been prophesying for years and years and years. All right, starting with the Israelites of Great Millstone and the ones that teach in like manner. All right, we've been prophesying in this third world war, man. And this third world war that's being created, all right, that's about to pop off, is being manufactured, systematically created by the elite banking families, man. All right, the elites, all right, the banking families, they go by a plan that's known as the Albert Pike and Mazzini plan, man, which was a plan, all right, to start 3 world wars, man. And the third world war, all right, was to be created by starting controversy between the Muslim world and the Judaism world. And that's exactly what you see happening right now. You see? It says the house, I'm right here, the house of Rothschild, all right, the house of Rothschild was and is the ruling power in Europe. For all the political powers were willing to acknowledge the sway of the great financial despot, and like obedient vassals, paid their tribute without murmur. All right. Its It says its influence was so all powerful that it was a saying no war could be undertaken without the assistance of the Rothschilds. Come on, man. All right. They rose to a position of such power in the political and commercial world that they became the dictators of Europe. All right. To the public, the archives of the family, which could throw so much light upon history, are a profound secret, a sealed book kept well hidden. All right. Give me a second. Let me pause the video real quick. All right, let's continue reading. All right. It says on July 27th, 1844, Mazzini said, all right, and I think this is talking about Giuseppe Mazzini. All right. Remember when I just said the elites, they go by a plan, all right, called the Albert Pike Mazzini blueprint. All right. That Mazzini is talking about Giuseppe Mazzini. All right. And I think this is the Mazzini, all right, that the same Mazzini. All right. It says on July 27th, all right, 1844, Mazzini said Rothschild could be king of France if he so desired. The Jewish Encyclopedia noted, 1909 edition, in the year 1848, the Paris house of Rothschild was reckoned to be worth 600 million francs, all right, as against 352 million francs held by all the other Paris bankers. All right. Let's keep reading. It says, Professor Werner Sumbart wrote, the principal loan floaters of the world, the Rothschilds, were later the first railway kings. The period of 1820 onwards became the age of the Rothschilds, so that at the middle of the century it was a common dictum: there is only one power in Europe, and that is Rothschild. All right, Jews and modern capitalism. All right, let's keep reading. Let's read a little more. All right, it says, Hearst's Chicago Evening American commented, December 3rd, 1923, the Rothschilds can start or prevent wars. All right, their word could make or break empires, showing you that all wars are started by the banking families, man, by the Rothschilds, man. You see? All right, you see? All right. And this Third World War is created by the Rothschilds, by the bankers, man. All right. World War I, World War II. All right. All major wars and events in history, man, are all orchestrated and manufactured by the elites, man. All right. It says Reeves notes. All right. Reeves notes. All right. The fall of Napoleon was the rise of Rothschild. Napoleon was later slowly poisoned to death with arsenic by a Rothschild agent. They had no need of another return from exile. And that goes to show you that these assassinations, these major assassinations that happen in history are also done by the elite bankers, man. You see? When they need somebody, when they want somebody put to death, or when they want somebody assassinated, they do it, man. You see? All right. It says the New York Evening Post noted, July 22nd, 1924, the Kaiser had to consult Rothschild to find out whether he could declare war. That goes to show you, man, that they control all the wars, that even kings of nations have to confront or consult the elite bankers, man, to whether they just like how you got Iran right now, Iran and Israel, man. The Rothschilds and the bankers, they calling all the shots between that war, man, because again, like I said, the elites, they have a plan for their new world order. All right, which is to bring 3 world wars, the Albert Pike and Mazzini blueprint. And the Third World War, all right, was to be created by starting a war between the Muslim world and the Judaism world. And like I said, that's exactly what you see right now. So they're calling all those shots over there, man. They're creating that war. You see? It says the New York Evening Post noted July 22nd, 1924, the Kaiser had to consult Rothschild to find out whether he could declare war. All right. Another Rothschild carried out the whole burden of the conflict, which overthrew Napoleon. All right. The Kaiser's chancellor, all right, Bethmann Hallweg, all right, who actually precipitated World War I, was a member of the Frankfurt banking family, Bethmann, and a cousin of the Rothschild. All right, you see? All right. It says after the fall of Napoleon, Solomon persuaded the ruler of Austria to issue patents, all right, of nobility to the five brothers. The Congress of Vienna was the emergence of the moth from its cocoon, all right? The diktat, all right, of this Congress was a simple one, all right? The aristocracies, all right, of Europe must submit to our will or they are doomed, all right? The death sentence upon the noble lines of Europe was pronounced by those who had the will to carry out their edict, all right? It took another century to perfect the work, not because the killers were weak, but because they wished to proceed cautiously without revealing their full strength. In combat, the decisive weapon is the one your opponent does not know about. All right. I'll read a little bit more. Right. It says it was not necessary to pronounce a death sentence upon the ruling families of America. All right. Because there were none. All right. During the 19th century, a few descendants of colonial entrepreneurs had amassed wealth and could afford a life of leisure and travel. They remained slavishly dependent upon continental arbiters in every matter requiring personal taste and judgment. Because they had no gilding philosophy and no program, this American upper class never made it to the top of the stairs. They remained below stairs as servants of the London princes of the world order. It goes to show you that London, all right, they still call all the shots, man. All right, you see? Because, you know, you got America that's so-called independent, right? But you got London still calling shots behind doors, man. Closed doors, man. You see? All right. All right, because what was it, 1776, all right? 1776, all right, America so-called gained independence, right? From Britain, man, all right? It says they remain below stairs, all right, as servants of the London princes of the world order, all right? Their self-abasement not only manifested itself in an unusual high rate of suicide, all right, but also in the slower forms of self-destruction, all right? Alcoholism, all right, drug addiction, and homosexuality, all right? It says their self-abasement not only manifested itself in an unusual high rate of suicide, but also in the slower forms of self-destruction, all right? Alcoholism, drug addiction, and homosexuality. That's a form of self-destruction, man. Drug addiction, alcoholism, man. All right? And that's all this homosexuality, one of the reasons why it's going to be destroyed. Just like the same way Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, that's how America is going to be destroyed, all right? According to the scriptures, man. That's all over the scriptures, man. All right? Jeremiah 49, Jeremiah 50, all right? Isaiah 13, it tells you the same way Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, which was by fire and brimstone, is how America is going to be destroyed, all right? And that fire and brimstone that's going to destroy America is going to come from those nuclear missiles that are going to hit America, man. All right? Babylon in this third world war, all right? And wipe it off and eradicate it from off the face of this earth, man. All right? This is homosexuality is not so much a type of sexual drive as it is the expression of deeper needs, the desire for self-degradation, all right? Or the seeking of a partner whom one can humiliate and degrade. It could hardly be unexpected that such a ruling class would eagerly hail the 20th century crusade to enthrone communism as the vehicle of the world order. All right. Let's see. I'll stop right there. All right. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. All right. Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Raktazah, this lesson was edifying. All right. I want to say call halal yum Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai Bahashim Rakah Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, you are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book. All right? So, again, call halal yum Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakah Quitash. All right? So on to the next one. Shalom, shalom.